mispronounced your last name. Do I pronounce it Rezegi? Is that the proper pronunciation?
It's Rezegi.
Rezegi. Okay, thank you. I hadn't heard it said before. So welcome. Tim's going to present on a Toppenish helicopter wood supplementation, phase 2 design project, and I will make you the presenter.
Okay.
All right, you should be the presenter now.
Yeah, it's activating, it looks like. Is my screen? Not yet?
Not yet, but let me see if the problem's on my end.
Okay.
Not seeing it here. Oh, there we go. Yeah, we're just seeing one, like, second to last page there, it looks like.
I can see it in the corner. It says you're sharing your screen.
Oh, does it? Oh.
Well, that's a tough color to read.
I shouldn't be sharing anymore. It should be you, and yeah, we're seeing your stuff, but it's not seeing the full screen version.
Maybe if I...
Yep, now we're seeing the first page.
Okay.
Well, this was a
So
couple, knowing it was late in the day.
So you can see it?
Yeah, I know we see it fine now.
Okay.
It looks like.
All right. So my name's Tim Rezegi. Worked for the Yakama Nation Fisheries program for about 18 years. We'll be talking about our project on Toppenish Creek to supplement wood, and this is the second phase. So some background, Toppenish Creek is located in central Washington. It's about the same size as the Sadish Creek watershed. It starts at an elevation of about 5,200 feet. So mid-Columbia steelhead that are listed as threatened are found in the watershed. And the Toppenish Creek population is one of the 4 populations of the Yakama MPG. And there's also Pacific lamprey that are found in the watershed as well. So the problem is the Toppenish Creek steelhead population has been declining for at least about the last 10 years. You see our red counts on the red graph. We didn't complete a red count in 2020, but they've all been pretty low since, and under 100 reds since at least 2015. And also for steelhead smolts, we run a screw trap below spawning and rearing habitat at about river mile 27, and we've seen a decline in out migrants too. And there's probably a lot of reasons for this. The one that I'm going to be addressing today is channel simplification and the spawning and rearing areas of the lower top of the canyon. And in these sections of creek, it's pretty much just a plain bed channel, just a simplified straight channel, not a lot of side channels or floodplain habitat. And as you can see, it's got pretty good shading. There's a lot of alders and dogwoods that seem to kind of lock the channel in place. And it's not all like this, but there's a lot of stretches that are pretty similar. And here's another one with a lot of alder a little bit further upstream. And as you can see, there's not much large woody debris in these sections. And we have some data from 2001. It's about 20 years old now or more. But as you can see from our two sites on the main stem Toppenish, if you look at the upper main stem Toppenish site, which is about 10 miles above the mouth of the North Fork Toppenish, there's 923 pieces per mile. And once you get down below the North Fork, there's quite a bit less. And there's probably a few reasons for this. That there was a road that was built along the creek. It was logged in the 80s. And it's also a much larger stream, so it's able to transport wood downstream more than some of the smaller creeks in the watershed. So some of the possible solutions for getting more large wood into the stream and more complexity are wood supplementation, riparian forest development, and by that I mean trying to thin out some of the smaller trees that like the dogwoods and the alders, and promote the ponderosa pine and cottonwood and some of the larger trees that could better recruit to the stream channel and create more complexity instead of just being flushed further downstream. And we're also looking at beaver reintroduction and promotion. That there are some beavers in this area, but since there isn't a lot of side channel area and complexity, a lot of their dams get blown out in the spring when it floods. So sort of the focus of what we've been doing is just trying to supplement large wood. And we had a project that we completed in 2019 where we added about 800 pieces of wood and pretty much designed in the field log jams, and the wood was delivered by helicopter. And this worked, but we had some problems with log jams sort of breaking free and just consolidating into much larger log jams. So 2 or 3 of the constructed log jams that we put in just kind of combined into one. But we still saw some pool developments, kind of some flanking of the log jams to create some more complexity. So I think that sort of to improve on this technique, we're thinking about using more root wads, trying to pin some of the other logs in between live trees, and using a hydraulic model to sort of decide where the best locations for these log jams would be to keep them in place. I think that we're probably still going to use mostly unanchored wood, just because of access in this area and the cost. So our goal is to just improve steelhead production in this reach in the lower canyon and upper alluvial fan of Toppenish Creek, with the objective to supplement about 5.5 miles of Toppenish Creek. And this is right below where we did the last project, phase 1, with at least as many large logs, root wads, and whole trees if we can figure out how to do it. Just to get an in-stream large wood density that's comparable to other parts of the watershed. So this is an overview of the Toppenish Creek watershed. The mouth is down in the lower right-hand side, down near Granger and the Compass. So we're working up in the lower about 10 miles of canyon and the upper alluvial fan of Toppenish Creek. So the green section is a section that we completed in 2019. The white section is the section that we want to work on next for phase 2. And in the future, we'd like to also supplement wood further upstream in the North Fork and about a mile or mile and a half above the confluence of the North Fork. And also downstream from where we're planning on working on next. But this is an area with more infrastructure, so we might have to use anchored wood structures in this area. So this is the section that we're planning on working on. It's about 5.5 miles, and there isn't a lot of infrastructure. There is a road in the that's active up above that yellow staging area that I have marked off. That road is being used upstream from there. In the lower left-hand area, it's the road has been abandoned and it's no longer in use, so there isn't as much concern about anything in there. But the road is pretty protected, except in one small area where the road and the creek sort of are adjacent. So we are planning on about $160,000 to do designs and assessment. We're requesting $134,000 from the surf board, and we're planning on about a $24,000 BPA match just to produce designs for unanchored wood structures that would be delivered by helicopter. So what this would, pretty much pay for is a site investigation of the hydrology, a hydraulic model, geomorphic assessment, some alternatives that we could choose from, draft construction plans, and assistance with permits. We may have to do a wetland delineation, but we aren't sure if we need to or not at this point. And then task for just the final construction plans for that we can use to bid out the project. And then, of course, project management. We'd like to try and collaborate with other projects that are doing like similar helicopter wood projects in 2025 or 2026, whenever we are able to construct the project. So with that, take any questions. These pictures in the left-hand picture, that's our part of our phase 1 project during implementation. And on the right-hand side, it's just a section of creek that we're planning on working on, and you can see some of the large mats of dogwood that we see there.
Thank you, Tim.
Got a question. I read in the paper recently about a 1.3 or 1.6, anyway, over $1 million for a project down there somewhere. Just said, how does that relate to this? Big chunk
The
of money.
1.6 million from that, I think you're talking about the Fish and Wildlife Service grant that we got for Toppenish Creek to do some work further downstream on some of the waterfowl production areas to screen them off to like prevent entrainment and take out a structure that could be a fish barrier at times, and just some more like wetland work, trying to make it so that off-channel areas drain back into the channel and prevent stranding of the juveniles that are migrating down.
Is this down by the Snake Creek area?
Yeah, this is the Piggott Creek, or the Piggott Duck Club that the Yakama Nation bought, and then some like some private land just downstream from there.
I just remember that the Snake Creek,
a little bit upstream from Snake Creek.
and the Snake Creek seemed to have a really bad survival rate on the outgoing smolt.
Yeah.
Now, wasn't there a basin-wide study that was funded, that was started, that they were going to look at the entire range area, Alex?
Yeah, that's currently underway. That was funded 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And that's underway, and they're working on results. And I do believe there are 2 grants. There's the U.S. Fish one Tim just mentioned. There is also a grant just received in the last week or so, which you probably saw the headline of NOAA Fish Passage money through their tribal program for the Snake Creek work we looked at. And that's all moving ahead without surfboard monies. And they'll be fixing that site that we visited on site tours 2 or even 3 years ago.
It's been a while.
Just before COVID.
Yeah. Well, is this project that's on the table in front of us, does that come from the overall basin study, or is this ahead of that?
The assessment we funded is almost all downstream of this. So this is up in the closed areas
Right.
above white salmon, and that study pretty much started where the first irrigation diversions started, is my memory.
White salmon or white swan?
White swan, yeah. You
On the wrong side of the hill.
Yeah. But, Tim, is that right, that the assessment work that Kelsey's doing is all downstream of your area?
I thought that we got funding to extend it up further to include all rearing and spawning habitat. I'm not sure if that was with surfboard funding or if that came from somewhere else, but I believe that she's planning on extending the assessment in Toppenish Creek and also Sada's Creek and Montana Creek.
That's right. I think that's why Mondays on top of the
Okay.
surfboard.
Hey Tim, this is Jen. I'm curious about the overall need for the designs as you've laid them out. I heard you say that, the phase one wood moved around and maybe didn't do exactly what you thought it was going to do, but I guess, was it not successful in your mind? And that's what's driving this different approach as far as the focus on design?
Yeah, I think this time we've decided to ask for design money because of it's closer to like some infrastructure. So hopefully we can try and include a risk assessment and just because of the road that runs beside in that part of the channel that's actively being used, and then there's an irrigation diversion 1 to 2 miles downstream. So that was pretty much the reason to, and also hopefully by doing the hydraulic modeling, we can just make the wood that we put in place more effective and be able to make sure, I guess, that we don't have too much transport downstream into areas that have more infrastructure. For the phases of the project upstream from what we did, I think that we, stick with just trying to do fit in the field techniques and just add the wood. And if it drifts further downstream, then it's probably drifting into phase one, which could probably use more wood anyways. And I have looked at this section that we'd be working on next, and I so far I haven't seen any wood that's been transported downstream. But I guess still, just to be cautious, I think that's the reason why we want to do the assessment. And we also have thought about trying to include some riparian forest development actions, like the thinning of the dogwoods and the alders to try and promote the larger trees like the cottonwood and ponderosa pine.
I just wanted to say there's a comment from Elizabeth that Surfboard likes to see the designs for this type of construction project. So please take a look at Surfboard Manual 18 Appendix D to see the design deliverables for the different phases of design. And the Surfboard would typically see alternatives assessment leading to a conceptual design, then a preliminary design submitted for the permits, and ultimately the final design. I'll forward this comment on to you, but just wanted to let you know that.
Okay.
Any other questions for Tim?
Is there something unique about Toppenish Creek that it lacks complexity and side channels?
There seems to be a big difference between the areas that were logged and the areas further upstream that were not logged in the past. And So talking to somebody that's lived in there, that works for us, that's lived in the area for a long time and runs cattle in the area, and is a little bit older, so remembers. We can remember when this lower area it was dominated by mostly large ponderosa pine, sure, and beneath it, it was mostly open, I guess. So once they logged it, that's when we could see a shift that occurred, and it's mostly just smaller trees and brush now. So we don't have any data of what the stream channel was like, prior to being logged, but it seems like there would have been more large trees available and probably more stream complexity and activated side channels. And he also mentioned a reduction in beavers over the years and an increase in bears, which is sort of interesting, since they could be the reason why there aren't as many beavers in the area.
Thank you.
Off the top of your head, do you know what your channel type is? If you don't, that's fine.
No, I can't. Yeah, I can't remember the Roskin channel types.
Am I right that this is often a fairly confined reach with a lot of bedrock on the edges of the stream coming in and off of bedrock, or does it have a pretty broad floodplain through the reach?
Oh, it has. It's probably at least a quarter of a mile in most areas.
Okay.
In between, there's some areas where it's more narrow, but there's a pretty dense riparian forest. It's just it's mostly brush. It's really hard to get back to the creek from the road.
Other questions? Well, if there's nothing else, thank you very much, Tim. We really appreciate it. And I'll be in contact about site tours, and we'll go from there.
Okay. Yeah, thank you, everyone.
Thank you. So we are slated now for a break until 2:45, a couple minutes behind schedule. So maybe go till 2:50 if nobody objects, just to give us a full 10, 12-minute break. And then just reconvene and just kind of quickly, talk through all the different projects and just kind of crystallize what our feedback for the sponsors is ahead of site tours and what our questions that we have for them will be. So we'll gather back here at 2:50.